During the pandemic, most food halls took a huge hit. So we had vendors closing up shops, operators were forced to reduce or even suspend their rent. But now food halls are seeing foot traffic growth, and it seems like a new food hall is opening, like all the time. So the question is, where are they opening? Well, pretty much everywhere. Big cities, small cities, downtown, suburbs. And today we're going to talk about them. You're watching Everything We Know About Retail. It's the show where we tell all of you everything we know about retail. We broadcast live on the internet most Thursdays at noon, 9 a.m. Pacific. You can figure out what the central and the mountain is, but you can watch us whenever you want on YouTube. If you go to everythingweknow.show, that'll take you to our page on YouTube where you can hit subscribe. My name is James Cook. Ebere Anokute is in New York. I'm joining you from Indiana. We both research retail and real estate for JLL. Ebere, how goes it?
I'm doing well, James. How are you doing?
I'm hanging in there. It's been a busy morning for me. I've had a lot going on, a lot of meetings, conference calls, getting ready with my mega list of new food halls that just keeps growing every time I
Of
I
course.
get to it.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, in that case, let's not waste any time, James. Tell me, what do you know about retail?
Yeah, so eBay food halls just keep coming. That's the first thing that I know about retail. Back in, I'm going to say 2017, 18, 19, we said, oh, we have reached peak food hall. I mean, that was like a term that we were talking about. There will be no more food halls. And then it seemed like
Right.
that was really true. Pandemic hits, slows everything down. Food halls were just doing, delivery and pickup, and, people weren't in the CBDs, so they weren't getting any of that lunchtime traffic.
Of
But
course.
but now food halls are back on our radar.
Yeah, definitely. I've been seeing a lot of them too. Have you seen of any of food halls that are opening this summer?
The summer, man, this week. I'm just like it's crazy. I know, right? Let's
Hard to keep
actually, as a
up.
matter of fact, I sent you some links. I'm going to
Okay.
talk about some food halls, pull up their websites so we can kind of give some visuals around this. Um,
Absolutely.
the first one, and let's try to come up with some themes too, because there's some themes. The first theme is food halls are coming into the suburbs. So pull up Freedom Street Social.
Are you
That
seeing
this,
it now, James? Are you?
yep,
Oh, there it is. Yep.
yep, I see it. This one is in Arvada, Colorado, which is a suburb of Denver. This one opened yesterday. Um,
Wow.
it's a smaller one. It's got like 8 food concepts. There's also a bar. They're going to do pop-up meals. They've kind of got a social mission as well. So one of the missions is to help chefs that maybe are looking, looking for exposure, looking for work, and they'll give them a month residency where they
Oh,
put
wow.
on supper clubs, and they put on, pop up meals and stuff like that. Um, Other notable stuff about this one is Freedom Street Social is going to have, I think, 3 concepts that are new to Colorado. The one for me that is most notable is Giordano's Pizza, which is
Mhm.
based deep dish pizza based out of Chicago. I live like 3.5 hours from Chicago. We only got a Giordano's in our area, I don't know, maybe like 4 or 5 years ago.
Wow.
So the fact that they're making that all the way out to Colorado is a pretty big move.
That is a
Um,
really big move. And something about these food halls that I don't know if it gets stated enough or if maybe I'm just not paying enough attention, but the business development aspect of these and the way that, they're
yeah,
organized as sort of incubators for these smaller or even not even smaller, but regional food chains is really, I feel like, understated and like a major advantage of these food halls, in addition to just giving me something delicious to eat when I'm in the office, like I feel like they
right.
really give these businesses a chance to, reach a wider audience and really, scale.
Yeah, and if you talk about like the growth trajectory of like a restaurant, say the first level is, well, I was going to say food cart, but we'll say food truck.
Right.
And then and I've got some examples later on I'm going to talk about where most of the vendors started in food trucks. and then
Yeah.
moved up from there. But this is a new twist. I mean, Giordano's is a big chain, like in the Chicagoland area. It's like
Right.
it's almost like, I'm trying to think of another example, like Pizza Hut opened up in your food hall, but because nobody's heard of it, it's
Yeah,
like cool.
absolutely. Well, James, you said there was another food hall that opened up this week. Where was that?
Yeah. So this one is in Boise. This one is called Warehouse Food Hall.
Okay.
This opened on Tuesday. It
Wow.
is the building was originally a warehouse. I think it's a warehouse district. However, most recently, this building. Oh, you'll never guess. Can you guess what that building was? What it used to be before they redeveloped it this year?
An apartment?
No, it was an Urban Outfitters.
That makes sense. I feel like aesthetically that definitely fits.
Yeah, so the developer on this one is Hendrix Commercial, that's
Mm,
done a couple of projects like this. They're out of, I want to say Milwaukee. I know they're out of Wisconsin, might be Madison, but they've done
right.
other projects like this. They've even done one in Indiana. They own 3 buildings in this in that little complex. One building's a movie theater. Another building is a music venue, and the other one is the food hall. Eventually, those will all be connected together. So the food hall is like an amenity
Oh wow.
for those 2 other projects.
Yeah,
All
looks
right.
amazing.
Quick update. Giordano's has a full service restaurant downtown Denver. I should have known that.
Oh,
I
boy.
like to I like to stay on top of the movements of pizza, especially Chicago style pizza, which is my favorite. Yeah, I'm
Right,
really surprised. And I go to downtown Denver quite a bit, both for work and
right.
play, and I had not seen that, so that's good to know.
Got to keep your eyes open, James. Next
I
time you're
know.
there, gotta keep your eyes peeled for the Giordano's. Maybe it was hidden somewhere.
Yeah. So this one, I like to keep track of budgets too. I don't have a budget for the last one we talked about. The budget for this one was 20 million for the renovation.
Wow.
So not bad. Let's jump over to, have you ever been to Poughkeepsie, Ebere, up in the Hudson Valley?
I've maybe driven. Actually, no, my cousin lives up there, so I have been to Poughkeepsie. Yes, I have. It's a
Okay.
little farther north for me, but it's not too far, so I have been.
So this is the Academy. Another theme here is like developing in opportunity districts.
Oh
So
wow.
this one and another one, I think, are both in opportunity zones. Am I right about that? I'm not sure about that now that I say that. This one
Yeah.
does have, it's mixed use, and there is an apartment complex with affordable housing.
Right.
So because of that, they got a $1.2 million development grant from New York State. Um, the total budget on this one is 13 million, and this
Wow.
is a redevelopment of 2 industrial buildings right in the heart of Poughkeepsie. Real eyesore. I think one of them was like a nightclub for a while, but
Right.
the kind of thing where everybody's excited that they're doing this in the downtown. And this one opens later this month.
That's really cool. I mean, I've never really been to downtown Poughkeepsie, so I don't know exactly how this fits in with the vibe there, but I'm sure it's an amenity that they're, like you said, super excited for and something that they've been missing in that area. So I know it's going to be a big success.
Yeah. It's great. I love live, work, and play projects. Several of these food halls we're talking about are really just, it's like we should almost talk about the entire project because they're amenities of
Right,
a much larger, redevelopment.
right. Well, tell me, James, are there any other food halls coming to small cities similar to Poughkeepsie?
Oh my gosh, are there ever? There are so many that I can't even, like I was saying, like I was trying to make a list, and I kind of lost track. But let's try to hit the major ones.
All right.
I say major, but a lot of these are small cities, right? Well, they're all small cities. So
Yeah, listen, Jay,
we'll,
there's no small cities, just small people. Food halls? I don't know. Tried to bring a quote in there, but didn't really work. Go ahead.
so Louisville, Kentucky,
Right.
in there, they have a neighborhood called Paristown. Village Market opens later this summer. That's going to be the first food hall for Louisville. Salt Lake City, Woodbine Food Hall opens next week. I guess summer is a good time to open a food hall. It seems like a lot of them are opening. There's
Right.
North Avenue Market in Milwaukee that opens. They're doing a soft opening in August and their grand opening in September. Kern's Bakery Food Hall in Knoxville is a 16-acre redevelopment of a like not just a bakery, but like a bakery production facility, that
Wow.
made bread, I guess bread loaves for the region. This is the one, this is one that's in an opportunity zone. Um,
Cool.
and 16 acres mixed use. The food hall opens in 2023. I don't quote me, but I think the apartments in the project have already opened. Um, that's an exciting one. I never make it to Knoxville. Do you ever make it to Knoxville? I know you've been to Tennessee recently.
Yeah, no, I'm usually in Memphis and sometimes in Nashville, but never made it to Knoxville either.
Yeah, yeah. Well, one of us, when somebody on the team does go, we're gonna have to check out Kern's Bakery Food Hall.
Right.
Um, Other ones, Dayton, Ohio, there's one opening this summer, and San Antonio, there's one that is opening next year. Not a comprehensive list, just my working ongoing list. Uh,
Right.
Again, there's so many.
No, there's I mean, we've listed like almost 10 today. So my next question to you, James, is which of these, or maybe not even of these, which new food hall in general are you most interested in visiting? Because we have all these options and all these reasons to go to Knoxville and to Salt Lake City and to Milwaukee. So where are we going first, James?
Um, my number one that I'm most excited about is not opening until 2024.
Oh wow.
But Chef Todd English announced a food hall coming to Stamford Town Center in Connecticut.
Wow.
Um, so, it's a mall. So I love seeing new, exciting things happening with a mall. Todd English, I enjoy his food. I recently ate at The Beast in Las Vegas, which was a part of the Area 15 project, and the food was fantastic. Um,
Awesome.
Also exciting, it's big, 2 floors. It's going to be 80,000 square feet.
Wow.
Um, they are they haven't given details, but there's going to be immersive art exhibitions. And they say there's going to be rotating cuisine. So, it's not necessarily permanent, the food that's going to be there. They're going to
Right.
use it as a ghost kitchen for delivery of brands. What else was interesting about it? Oh, they say, and who knows what this means, but it's going to be Instagrammable and is this a word, TikTokable?
That's a new one. I haven't heard that used yet, but it's only a matter of time. So it makes sense.
And anyway, Todd is very in the food hall world is known for the Plaza Food Hall in New York, which
Right.
I've never been to. Have you been to that?
I haven't. No.
Yeah. So anyway, it's a
Well,
$20
James,
million. Yeah, yeah.
no, I mean, as you're talking about this, I'm just curious, and I'm sure maybe our listeners would be too, which we've obviously discussed this at length, but for the listeners, when it comes to a food hall in a mall, how is that not a food court? You know, because when I think of, food offerings in the mall, typically it's a food court, but is it the exact offerings that are a little bit more elevated? Is it the cuisine that's offered? Like, what exactly differentiates a food hall and a food court in this in the Stamford Town Center from what I'm sure they currently have as a food court? What makes it a food hall?
Yeah, when you get into a mall, it gets blurry.
That's what I
But
thought.
what it is if we're talking about a mall, we're talking
Mm,
about like usually if you're talking about a standalone food hall, it's individual local operators.
right,
Um, Sometimes, like we talked about Giordano's, sometimes it is a chain, but it's something unique. In essence, I mean, it's like smut. I know it when I see it,
right,
or obscenity. I know it when I see it.
of
It
course,
is, in essence, uh, not your usual chains. So if there are
mm,
chains, they're not your usual chains.
right.
Um, a focus on local, a focus on food quality, has to have alcohol. Um, I say that maybe there's a food hall out there that doesn't have
It
it, but I
doesn't,
think it
yeah,
has to have alcohol,
of course,
which is different than a food court. Like food
definitely.
courts did not traditionally have alcohol, should have a bar. I don't know. What am I forgetting? What makes a food hall?
I think you hit all of them. Yeah, I think those
Yeah.
are the main differentiators. You know, especially maybe the alcohol portion, and like you said, the chains, right? Whereas a
Yeah.
food court might have, I mean, call them out, Wendy's, McDonald's, Burger King,
Mhm.
etc. I feel like a food hall would have a little bit more refined offerings than than our typical fast food QSR tenants. So yeah,
Right,
definitely.
right, right. It's real simple. You see a Sparrows, you know you're in a food court. You see a Subway, you know you're in a food court.
Exactly,
Um,
exactly.
you see, I don't know, what's a good one? A ramen chain, a ramen
There you go.
place that is new to you, you're in a food hall.
Yep,
Um,
just like that.
Brian says the Plaza Food Hall was partially closed when he was there last and looked like it was going through a renovation.
Right.
Uh, when it opened, it was fantastic, albeit a bit hard to find. Yeah, maybe that's why I haven't been. Is because it's not out in the open there.
Right. I'm like even trying to look it up now. Like,
You're like googling it.
is it not at the Plaza Hotel? Am I confused?
I think so.
I
I
would
think
guess.
so. I thought it
Yeah, I
was at the
think
Plaza
it's
Hotel. Yeah.
maybe. Well, I have to check it out one day.
Yeah.
Look it up
This
for sure.
you're watching everything we don't know about retail.
Welcome
um
back for those who just tuned in.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, so Ebere, what do you know about retail?
Well, James, here's the second thing we know about retail, which is more food halls in big cities.
Oh,
Right.
so we're
So,
talking about food halls.
I mean, surprise. It's the food hall episode, right? And
So
James, you were,
big
oh, go ahead.
cities. No, I was just gonna say, so big cities. So the
Mhm.
places that have more food halls than anywhere else already.
Listen, there these landlords have decided to double down on food halls when it comes to amenity uses in their projects in the city. Okay, James, you just walked us through some of the food halls that are coming to all different places across the country, including some of the smaller cities. But I don't think I'm incorrect in saying that food halls gain popularity in big cities, right? When it comes to catering to the office lunch crowd and just the massive tourist populations and general foot traffic that we see in these big cities. I think that's where these food halls were able to gain their popularity and gain their footing. So it makes perfect sense to me that they would be expanding in these larger cities as well as in these other areas, right? Maybe we'll say the cities are their bread and butter, and they're experimenting with other, regions and geographies. But in New York City, we're obviously no stranger to food halls. James, you and I went to one when you were here a couple months ago to the Hue, which I thought was lovely and had a great time there. And
Yes, enjoyed the
yeah,
hue.
yeah, we had some delicious ramen there. I should have pulled up some of the video that we took when we were there because we definitely had a lot of footage. But in New York, we saw in Q2 just recently that food users overall made up almost 36% of overall leasing activity, right? Which is
Interesting.
a little over a third, and that's around what they average almost every quarter. I'll say it's usually tends to be around 30% or so. So 36% is a little bit of an uptick, and I think all these food halls that we have heard announced must have something to do with it, right? So let's just get into three of the ones that I'm most excited about. The first one we have is Urban Space Pearl, which is opening in the financial district, right? I think Urban Space is almost the prototypical food hall. Maybe you would agree, James. When I
Oh
think
yeah.
it's probably the first concept that I was made familiar with and that I actually got to visit. And I think I almost think that every other food hall in the city is modeling themselves more or less after Urban Space because they've been so successful, right? So I know, James, you and I have gone to the one by Grand Central, which is near our
Vanderbilt.
office.
Yeah.
Vanderbilt, exactly. And they also have one on Lexington Avenue, and I believe there's another one in Midtown West. But this one right here that they're opening, Urban Space Pearl, is going to be their first one downtown, located in the financial district at 100 Pearl Street. So it is going to be a pretty large endeavor, especially for the city. 15,000 square feet, 16 vendors, and seating for over 300 people, right? So they're definitely taking it seriously. And I think Urban Space, again, like I said, it's the premier food hall operator in the city, and makes perfect sense that as we're expanding in the food hall space, Urban Space would be right at the leading edge of that. So they're not done this year, right? They're planning to open two more locations just this year in Union Square, and then a specialized Asian fusion sort of concept in Midtown West, also opening this year as well. So more to come from Urban
Oh,
Space for sure.
wow. The
Yeah.
Midtown West one has piqued my interest the
Yeah.
most. That the is that the first the Pearl one? Is that the first food hall that's downtown? Like,
It's the
are there
first
any
urban
others?
space.
Okay.
I
Like, I was
well, no,
trying
there
to.
are definitely others. Yeah, like Brookfield Place. They have
Oh,
a food, right?
duh. You're right. Right. They
Which
have
we've
the
also been
French
to.
food hall. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're right.
Exactly. Yeah,
You're
and I
right.
think yeah, Westfield or World Trade might have one too. But oh no, Brookfield has like the two on top of each other. There's like La District and then like the other one that's on the second floor. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
some competition coming, right? So Brookfield, they got to
Yeah.
keep step their game up if they want to, retain that lunch crowd. And we know that office populations across the country have been ticking upward, week after week. So and financial district is definitely a major office district in New York. So there's definitely a large consumer base there for urban space or Brookfield or whoever to be successful. So we remains to be seen what's going to happen there, but we're definitely excited. The next one I want to highlight was the James Beard Food Hall, which is coming to Chelsea. So this is just a rendering of what it could look like. And I'm going to ask you a question in a second about the rendering. So just let me get some of the facts out, and then I want to hear what you think, James.
Okay, I'm zooming in. I'm blowing this up to full screen, so I'm
Yeah,
ready.
right. So you can be ready. The James Beard Foundation, obviously, they give out awards to a lot of different restaurants, and they're very active in that space. And they partnered with Jamestown, which is the developer that developed both Chelsea Market, now iconic. Everyone knows, Chelsea Market, as well as Industry City in Brooklyn, which is a really cool, similar sort of like mixed use development. I've only been a couple of times, but I've always been.
Industrial redevelopment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I'm one of those, all those, buzzwords. But it's a really, really cool development. So I'm sure that this new location, which is going to be called Pier 57 in Chelsea, is going to be just as amazing there. With James Beard as the anchor tenant, they have said that they're going to operate a mission-centered showcase kitchen. So they're going to be not just offering dining, but also cooking demonstrations as well, which I know personally is something I would be very interested in. I love, to cook and learn how to cook new different things. So that's definitely something that I would, try out myself. And they also, similar to what we spoke about a little bit earlier, they have a plan to curate all the different kiosks, which they have 17 of them, with different fast casual concepts from up and coming chefs, with the goal of serving as an incubator for these local small businesses and food entrepreneurs. So again, I really think that's something that's understated about food halls, and another reason, in addition to all the amazing offerings that they give us, why we like them and why we want to see more of them come up, because it gives a lot of different food entrepreneurs at different stages of their business and career the chance to reach a wider audience and just get a lot more experience. So what I want to ask you, James, is about this rendering. I don't know what you think, but this looks to me, I'm specifically focusing on the gray floor.
Yeah.
Why do you think that so many food halls opt for this aesthetic? Like for a concept that's been around now for, I don't know, maybe 6-7 years or so.
Yeah.
I feel like even the new ones I walk into, maybe with the exception of the Hue, which looked a little bit more verdant, right? There was a lot of greenery in there. It was a little bit different. But for the most part, when I think of, Urban Space Vanderbilt or even like Gotham Market and Hell's Kitchen, it's this like industrial, you see like I don't know, it's called aluminum maybe in the background. Like, what do you think it is about that aesthetic that these food hall operators, keep going for? And do you think there are any improvements that can be made to food hall, design in this way?
Yeah, so this is a great point, and it is about cost and it is about convenience.
Right.
So you go to some food halls, and I'm trying to think of some good. Chelsea Market as an example, where every vendor has a different look and feel to
Right.
it.
Right.
Then you go to others where all the vendors might be different, but everything feels the same. And all the signage is the same. They don't have like different logos for the vendors. That's because it's so much more expensive to pay for tenant improvements for these individual vendors, which, going back to what we talked about earlier, it's a group of 17 people who never ran a restaurant before.
Exactly.
These are not all gonna be viable like in a year or two from now.
Right.
So some are gonna go out. And if you want to flip in a new vendor there, it's a lot easier and inexpensive if you have sort of this anonymous feel to it.
That makes sense.
Personally not as big a fan of this aesthetic as you mentioned the Hue, where they've done a bit more of I don't want to use the term placemaking, but you do feel like you're in a place.
Yeah.
There's one on Michigan Avenue, Astor, I think it's called Astor Hall, that the food is awesome, but so anonymous feeling.
Yeah.
Like I don't feel any place at all. So
Right. Right.
um I guess in the end of the day, it was a lot of talk to say it's all about the Benjamins.
Which, honestly, that makes sense to me. And I guess, when I go to a food hall, I do like to sit down, but it's not a place that I'm spending a lot of time at, right? So I
Yeah.
guess that probably was factored into, yeah, low maintenance makes a lot of sense, was factored into the, development of the food hall. The fact that people are going to be kind of in and out. And so for that reason, the aesthetic doesn't need to be super curated, but so I mean that makes a lot of sense to me, because I was looking at this and I was like, why would they do like I've seen this image. This looks like urban space
I've
Vanderbilt.
been here before.
I've been here in this rendering. How is that possible? But
Yeah.
it makes a lot of sense. So the last one I want to highlight really quickly is another food hall called, I'm going to mispronounce this, which is maybe embarrassing. Al-Kabulan. Al-Kabulan. We'll see one day when they open. I'm sure they'll have a extensive pronunciation session for all of us to understand. But this is an African fine dining food hall which is coming to Harlem next year. This image I'm showing you right now is of their Dubai location, which is currently
I was going to say that's not Harlem
at all, right? The palm trees. It's definitely, yeah, we're not in Harlem anymore for sure. But obviously they don't have any renderings available yet, so I had to pull from the Dubai location, and they have that location open, and they're opening New York and London this year. So very excited. And I'm actually going to come out of here real quick and then go back to this, and I'm going to pray that this opens. Can you see this, James?
Yep.
Okay, so this is their website for Al-Kabulan, for the location that they have in Dubai, right? So obviously they call it the home of African art, food, and music. It reminded me a lot, James, as you were talking about the food hall that they're opening. Where did you say it was? In Todd English's food hall in Stamford, Connecticut, where they're going to have immersive art exhibits and things like that. That appears to be a big focus of this endeavor as well.
Cool.
They obviously bill themselves as the world's first African fine dining hall. And yeah, like I said, opening in Harlem next year. The head Chef Alexander Smalls, is responsible for a number of different restaurants throughout New York City. I think the most famous one is called the Cecil, which is a steakhouse up here in Harlem that I've been to many times and always had a lovely time at. So I have absolutely no doubt that when Al-Kabulan opens in Harlem next year, that it's going to be a big success. And again, just going on the popularity of these food halls, in these major cities especially, I can't see a reason why, it's not going to be a huge hit. So very excited about that.
Are you familiar? Like, do you know are you familiar with the location where it's going in?
I didn't see that in any of the articles that I read. No. So they just said that it's coming to Harlem summer 2023.
Okay.
And I know that it's focused on West African dining, which is important because Africa is a big place, and East, West, South have all different cuisines and cultures and stuff like that. So important to highlight that it's West African, which is obviously where I'm from. So I have a inherent bias to that place. But yeah, James, next time you're in New York, hopefully it's open and we're able to go up there and check it out. It's going to be a good time.
That would be awesome.
But in the meantime, until we get there, James, what do you know about retail?
Yeah. So let me get organized and tell you the third thing that I know about retail. I have one more food hall to talk about.
No.
The last month when I was in Denver last, I stopped in at Edgewater Public Market for a visit. So this one is not brand new. It opened late 2019, but I thought I'd give a little review since it was a new food hall and market for me. So it's in Edgewater, which is in Denver. It's got a 52,000 square foot food hall and retail hall. And then there's another building with more inline retail. There's 4 buildings total. And then there's Shake Shack too. That's a part of that development. So it's in Edgewater, which is like it is its own city, but it's kind of like a city surrounded by Denver. So it's like probably some suburb, like some part of the city that decided to be its own city or something. Who knows?
Right,
But
right.
it's a hot neighborhood. It's right near. It's called Edgewater. It's right on a lake. So it's really cool. It's really nice. Um, this particular food hall is a redevelopment. Let me make sure I have the right videos here. It's a redevelopment of a supermarket, King Super, which is now owned by Kroger, that was sitting vacant for almost 20 years. It was most
Wow.
recently owned by the city of Edgewater. It was like trying a whole bunch of different stuff to do something with it. Littleton Capital Partners is a group that specializes in urban infill projects in Denver. They took it on and opened in 2019 and got hit with COVID.
Naturally, as we all
Right.
did.
But now things seem to be doing pretty well. When I was there, you know, the atmosphere was pretty good. I was there on a Sunday afternoon. Most of the food vendors are uh, folks who'd already established themselves as food truck operators, and this is kind of their first bricks and mortar location. This video is Sunday, probably like 1:30, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. There's about 18 food vendors, and then there's also a shopping area with another, I'm going to say 12 stores and probably, I don't know, maybe 5 vacant spaces.
Oh, wow.
They got boutiques, gift, there's a barber, there's a liquor store.
Wow.
There's another, like I mentioned, there's an inline building. They've got like 4, it's like the wellness building or something where they've got yoga and massage and 2 other like rowing or something.
Right.
I was kind of in a quick visit there. One of the shops that I did dig into a little bit was Zero Market, which is Colorado's first zero waste store. So you
Hmm.
bring your own empty containers and they fill them for you with soap, cleaners, kombucha, shampoo. They have one other location, which is their first bricks and mortar location, which is in Stanley Marketplace. It was actually a project that's very similar to this public market that's
Mhm.
in Aurora, which is I think closer to the airport. Have you ever been to a zero waste store?
Never. I don't even know if I've heard of them. I don't know if we have them in New York. So,
I mean, you
uh,
have everything.
sure, sure.
They're in
Right, right.
Brooklyn.
Okay, definitely. That's why I haven't been out there to see them, but it sounds
um,
interesting.
what I love is, you go through shampoo and you're throwing those bottles into the recycling bin. I mean, why not bring in a mason jar or something and just keep refilling it?
Yeah, it's a beautiful idea.
Um, they have a brewery. There's a vegetarian Ethiopian place. There's a crepes place. There's an Italian place. They do a lot of events. Metro Denver is a real food hall hotspot. I would
Really,
say, like per capita, um, there's like more food halls and public markets probably in Denver than like anywhere else. Like
really.
there's at least 12, not in Denver proper, but like the area like they call the Front Range. Like
Mm,
there's at least 12, and there's like Avanti, which we were just talking with our coworker Grant, who was just there the other week. That's like a renowned one.
right.
Central Market, The Source, Zeppelin Hall. I've done videos for like a lot of these too, because because my sister lives near Denver, so I like to go there a lot.
Right. Well, James, listen, how was the
Yeah.
food?
So here's the deal, Ebere.
Uh-oh, don't tell me
I was with
anything.
the family,
Okay.
and we were coming from the airport on the way to the mountains.
Okay.
I maneuvered this detour. We park in the parking lot. I might have mentioned right there in the parking lot is a Shake Shack.
Okay.
They saw the Shake Shack. They're like, why would we want to walk and find food when there's food
Is it
right
cheese check?
here? So we had Shake Shack,
I mean, listen, I don't
which
blame
was
you. That's
fine.
logic. I'm sure.
um, That's a whole other thing, though. I've got this thing on Shake Shack's quality that's been kind of ebbing and flowing as they expand. That's a
Mm.
discussion for another day.
We can get into that on our QSR episode for sure.
Yeah, right. But I guess just to wrap up, the discussion on this one, it's in the suburbs, but it is a walkable suburbs.
Mm.
There's that lake that people are going to. It's a kind of place where a suburban food hall makes sense. We talked about the other one in Arvada. It's a kind of place where a suburban food hall makes sense. The other thing I love about this project is the adaptive reuse of a grocery store.
I love that too.
Several of ours are, most of ours are adaptive reuses: industrial buildings, warehouses, grocery stores, bakery.
Yeah,
That's the thing. There's like an authenticity to be found in an adaptive reuse project. There's like a history there that people really enjoy.
totally agree.
Let's check in on see if we have any viewer comments. We always like to bring up anything that our live viewers have to say. Brian's got some recommendations for us. If you're in Milano, the food hall at the Centrale train station is one of the best I've seen in the past year.
Okay.
I'm all for that. Europe has for real food halls in a way that we do not in the US. Ones that rose up organically, and have been around for a long time. And you can find great food in a train station. You're not going to find
Yeah.
a great food in any kind of travel place in the US. And then Brian also mentions Time Out Dubai is a great global place. Chicago edition is disappointing.
Okay.
Interesting. So the Chicago timeout is in Fulton Market area, which is kind of like the hip area.
Right.
I did a swing by when it was still under construction, but I hadn't been there. I haven't been there since it's been built. Be curious to check it out, though.
Yeah, definitely. I love the international perspective he's bringing in. It's nice to know that it's not just an American phenomenon, but that they're proliferating across the globe. It's definitely fascinating.
Stuart wants to know, do you think we were over food hauled? Well, I said like a couple of years ago before the pandemic, we thought we had hit peak food haul.
Mm-hmm.
And then, here we are adding new food halls. There's a lot of them are coming. So a couple of other updates here from Stuart. Food hall in Denver already closed on Lincoln Street. I don't know which one that is. I don't know if that's one I've been to or not. If that's one, because there's like one I was at in Rhino. Anyway, I'll have to look that up. And then Auction House in NOLA also closed. Oh,
no.
yeah. I didn't realize that when it closed. I visited that when I was there in maybe like 2018. So one more thing from Stuart. He's coming hard and fast. Do most owners control liquor? If so, how do operators make money? Yes. Most owners do run the bar themselves. So the way it works is there's, the individual vendors that have their own food, but then there's a central bar and people can get drinks and carry them around. And how do they make money? Well, a lot of them don't. A lot of them are amenities for mixed use projects where they make the money on the office and the apartments.
Right.
If you're urban space Vanderbilt, where you've got millions of daytime office workers around you, you're going to make money selling food and coffee and drinks. But yeah, it's a tough business to be in. No doubt about it. All right, so we're running out of time. So I just want to remind everybody to download our latest research reports at JLL.com. We did a report called So You Want to Build a Food Hall. It's now a year or two old, but all of the learnings in there are totally on target. If you're interested in the things you have to think about when you create a food hall, check it out. Just search for food hall at JLL.com. All of our reports are at the trends and insights section. And then I do a podcast called Where We Buy, which is like in-depth interviews. It's audio only. Maybe you're looking for something new to listen to in your commute. You can search for Where We Buy on whatever podcast app it is you like to use. And I use like a couple of them. So Ebere, you're Spotify. Have we talked about this? No, you don't do Spotify, do
No,
you?
I do Apple Podcasts. It's just right there on the phone.
Right.
It's always been so easy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but while we're here, I'd also like to remind you to hit the subscribe button on YouTube and click on the little bell icon so that you are notified when new shows come out each week. Alternatively, you could also follow the JLO retail page on LinkedIn. And we will be back next week with a new episode next Thursday at 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern. You can find that at everythingweknow.show or on the JLO retail LinkedIn page.
So Ebere, what do we know? What do we learn about retail today?
I know that food halls are exploding, that we're opening them at breakneck speed week after week. We can't even keep up.
Well, I'll tell you what I learned today. There's a Giordano's in Denver. But I think more importantly, what surprised me too is the two things: number of food halls going into small cities, and
Mhm.
also that there's room for more food halls in big cities like New York and Denver as well.
Absolutely.
So if you want to know more of everything we know about retail, you can join us here again next week.